Hey everybody, it's your favorite gentleman, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today you all are in for a treat. I have a very special guest. This lady is profound. You won't want to miss 1 second of this dynamic powerhouse speaker of a guest as she comes to center stage here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Stay tuned, stay with us, stay engaged. You won't want to miss 1 second. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Your favorite gentleman coming to you live and direct. And today I have an incredible guest, Miss Ally Muller. She is the managing director of GOYA Consulting. Miss Ally works with boards, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs alike to build innovational ecosystems and entrepreneurial cultures that add extraordinary value to any bottom line, your bottom line, my bottom line. She is world renowned and best known for successfully building and selling a number of her own businesses. Also, she turned her focus back to corporate world so she can give back and pour into businesses and help them develop what she calls the corporate innovation operating system to humanize the innovation process and unlock the hidden genius and potential inside your organization. So please help me welcome to the stage the incredible, the amazing Miss Ally.
Thank you for having me, Marcus. It's great to be on.
It's great to have you. Thank you for joining us on the Gentleman Style Podcast stage. One more round of applause, y'all. Ma'am, you are phenomenal. Your resume is extensive, and we are happy to have you here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Tell us, what is it? You have accomplished so many. Your resume is extensive, but you went back. You did something unique. You went back to corporate America. Why? Why did you go back to corporate America to give back?
Well, the thing for me is you have to really work out what makes you get out of bed, where do you find your passion, and how do you act of service. So I think one of the things that we can all do in everything that we do is actually find how we can be of service. And I worked out for me that one of the best things I can do is follow my passion, which is helping other people do what I do, think the way that I think, and then help them achieve their dreams from an innovation perspective. And the reason I went back was because I could just see them tripping up over their own mistakes. So instead of standing from the sidelines, like, we can all be really good, and, we can, be the critique from the peanut gallery and do those all those wonderful things. And we can watch people say, well, they didn't really do that well, did they? Or we can turn that in and actually build that into a framework and a structured model to say, how do we allow people to achieve more? And part of the reason I did that was because when I was in the corporate world, and part of the reason why I left initially was because I was kind of a bit of a rogue employee, I suppose you would say, and perhaps maybe a bit of a disgruntled customer of not being able to see my ideas being fulfilled in a way that made logical sense. So the reason why that is really simple is because organizations, big corporates, operate very differently from a startup, and they, whether we like it or not, they are a large bureaucracy. They have rules, they have risk mandates, we have shareholders, we have people that are external and internal that we have to be accountable to, and they're responsible for different outcomes. So why not give innovation and people the set of rules to play by that they can allow that to happen, instead of watching it fall by the wayside and not happening because it doesn't fit into the neat bucket of a really defined project where we know what the outcomes are, where we know exactly what we need to invest in, and where we know exactly what those returns will be. Innovation's messy. So let's create the rules to play the game correctly.
It is very, very messy. And I want to say you are right on time. 2020 was a dumpster fire. It was a mess. It was a complete nightmare. But one of the things that stemmed out of it is that we all of us, every single business had to innovate. They had to pivot. What's the pivot? We had to change the way we do business today. What are some ways that you teach to, that you coach to, that you mentor to, that we now need to start thinking about, so we don't become the next Radio Shack, so we don't become the next Blockbuster, right? What are some
Mm.
ways in your diverse experience? What's some ways that we can innovate? Can you spill some tea for us?
Yeah, so what we do is, I'm a huge believer that I can take what I do and I can work in any industry, and I have. I've done this directly in 30 really large organizations with 30 CEOs. So I know that this works. And this is everything from finance to infrastructure to energy and power distribution. So you name it, and everything in the middle. We've done food as well. We can do all this. And the one thing that I say to them is, not only do you need to unlock the ideas that are inside the organization, and I do have a methodology to help them do that, but I show them how to automate the process, because innovation has to stop being just those ideation. It has to stop being the really fun design thinking, where we're doing lots of post-it notes on walls and really fun workshops. Like, don't get me wrong, I love them. I think they're great, and they're really good for bringing people together to start thinking in a convergent and a diverse, really important for innovation. But the problem is that that's only about 0.5% of what we need to do from an innovation perspective inside an organization. And what we teach them is how to become more structured around what they're going to do for the other 99.5%. And we show them how to create a complete end-to-end workflow to manage that and then automate it. Because what we really want to do is make sure that we've got our people spending more time on the work that not only adds value, it allows them to be creative and building the ideas, turning concepts into things that can actually add value to the bottom line, and take them away from that busyness, admin, sort of that vortex of stuff that people can get stuck in from a reporting perspective. And then the other reason we do that, which is super important, and it's the one that leadership teams, boards, and executives love me the most for, which is we provide a very structured governance frame that is unique to innovation, so that they can monitor their reporting, they can make the correct decisions, they can be led by data, they can see where their money is going, they can see who's working on what at what time. And it makes for easy transparency for everyone inside the organization. Because for us, transparency engenders trust with everyone in the organization, trust with the leadership team because they can see what their amazing people are doing, and then trust from the people inside the organization because they can see that their leadership team has granted them, the authority and the autonomy to be able to work on these amazing ideas and to allow them to have what I call 1 foot in today and 1 foot in tomorrow, so that they can drive the potential future revenue streams for tomorrow.
Miss Ally, y'all. I told y'all, spilling the tea on Gentleman Style Podcast Show. This is epic. We have a question from one of our VIP sponsors of the show. And first off, I want to address this. Thank you, Miss Erica Holmes. That donation helps us support the show and helps bring value to the show and find unique and powerful and amazing guests like Miss Ally to the show. So thank you for your VIP sponsorship. We appreciate you. You can VIP sponsor on YouTube. Her question is, Miss Ally, are you ready for it? Do you also help with the culture of our organization? That's her question.
Yes. And initially, this was something that I hadn't given a huge amount of thought to, Erica. So what had happened when we started doing this and I was putting my framework into practice was I was really focused on, and so forgive me, I'm a bit of a finance nerd. I love numbers and maths. And so I was really focused on what were we bringing back to on the bottom line? Where were these numbers? What were we actually being able to equate to, percentages uplift and things like that? And then over time, as we were building this, particularly with the first couple of clients, what I saw was a really significant uplift in culture, which I wasn't anticipating. So I dug back down and looked at this, and I worked with the leadership teams and with the people that we were working with in the organization, and we worked out that despite us being really focused on just the numbers and the delivery methodology and how we train people to deliver this, because I'm not a HR specialist or a culture specialist. I would never say I've trained in that space. But what I realized was we were making huge, significant cultural changes. We were bringing teams and people together inside the organization that we hadn't seen before. And we were creating cross collaborative processes that leadership teams were saying to me, I'm not quite sure how you did that, but can you do a little bit more of that? Because this is really working. And we were bringing alignment across different portfolios of work from a budget and finance perspective. So what we realized was very quickly that innovation aligns everyone. And the reason why it does that is it's normally one of the top 3 to 5 values of an organization. It's part of their aspirations of where they want to go. Secondly, most people love innovation, whether they're participating in it, talking about it, or just considering different ideas. Even if they don't tell anyone about what they're doing, they love the concept of it being there. So you get two sorts of groups of people, those that want to participate and those that are happy to watch. And even those that are happy to watch were still happy to provide their ideas in a really positive and uplifting way and cheer on the people that were working in these teams to deliver value. So we found a massive, massive uplift in that. And from there, we've taken that knowledge and that research that we've done with these organizations, and we've turned it into a couple of different programs that sit inside the framework to make sure that we do receive that cultural engagement and uplift. And we work with the HR teams to make sure that they can get the results from this, that we know that they can.
There you go. There you go. Powerful, powerful. Hope that answers your question, Miss Erica. We have one quick commercial break. You guys don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. Stay engaged. We'll be right back. Good day, podcast listeners. This is your boy, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I wanted to let you guys know that we will be rolling out a new feature and adding a join sponsor button next to the subscriber button here at the bottom of your screen. Once you click the button, it will display 3 membership levels. Gentleman Gentry, which is our entry level, Duke Duchess, which is our season level, and the Emperor and Empress, which is our most sophisticated level, which you will receive unique perks and benefits at each differing level and gain access to our community tab. We will also be sharing polls, upcoming events, and interviews, as well as receive feedback from our sponsors directly. Your support helps me find new and exciting guests to bring to the stage live. Well, in order to get the higher end speakers, it requires, some, you guessed it, money. So thank you for tuning in to my channel. And if becoming a sponsor sounds good to you, then select the join button below and choose your desired sponsor level. Let's continue to grow and serve the future of generations of men and women to come. Love you guys. Bye. We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. If you missed it, Miss Ally just spilled some of the tea on one of the things that you should look for on innovation and why it is important and why it's significant to incorporate it into not only the business aspect and into your leaders, but also the culture. That means the subculture, the employees, the staff, make it a part of the framework. And that's what her team works with HR. They work closely with HR to integrate that culture into your business. If you missed that, go back, scroll back, tune in, and check her out. She is phenomenal. She's spilling all the tea. Well, some of the tea. You got to pay for the rest of it on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show today. Miss Ally, you touched on it. Leaders, right? Innovation in leaders. That's the trademark. Leaders are the ones that really guide the company and steer the direction of where the company is. And so to not become, and I keep mentioning it, to not become the Radio Shacks of the world, to not become the Blockbusters of the world, our leaders need to know when to innovate. And you touch on this. There are some characteristics, you touch on this in your book, that there are 7 characteristics that people need to look out for, leaders need to look out for in the innovation framework. Can you share some of those? or all of them?
Yeah, I'll share some of those. I'll share the most important ones. So the first and most important one is what we want from our leaders in the innovation space is servant leadership. So we are looking for them to coach, guide, mentor, and lead everyone else around us. They should not be the people necessarily coming up with or, defining what the innovation ideas are. We need to see that they are a bit more like the Yoda or the Mr. Miyagi of the teacher, so that we are learning inside our organization, which is super important. And that leads me to that point of our leaders need to be what I call the coach. And I use a lot of sporting analogies because I love sports. So what I talk to people about is the coach is there. They're to help us train. They're to show us, like, what are the different maneuvers, the tactics? How do we get fit? How do we make sure we're really strong? But what we have to remember is the coach doesn't run onto the field to play. The coach isn't the one scoring the goal. The coach is on the sideline, screaming, cheering, giving us those play checks, telling us what happens when we're a little bit down. That's what we want from our innovation leaders. So the crux of where this all comes from is I believe that the majority of the ideas will come from the heart of the organization. So the genius is actually in the people, not necessarily in our leadership team. And the role of the leaders is how do they draw that out, give them the skills, show them how to go on the journey and to make it happen. And the third top tip, and there are more in the book, but these are my top three, is when the leaders are actually helping us put together our innovation ideas and the teams, what I ask them to do is rethink how they put their teams together. So what happens is they generally fall back to a methodology of who are their star players, who are the people that they constantly work with. And what happens is they put together the same groups of people all the time. I'm not sure if you see that in your organizations. And there's a couple of reasons. They're comfortable working together. They know that it's going to be delivered. And there's lots of reasons. And they're all actually quite good. But there's a but. There's a really big but. And what happens with that is they have fallen into a methodology of groupthink that they can't even see. They've actually gone into a process where they're so streamlined with each other that they automatically understand what's going to happen, and they actually don't think about what's going to happen next. So what we need to think about with innovation is how do we do what I call get your bunch of misfits together? So we want the black sheeps, the pirates, the rogues, the black hat thinkers. We want people from everywhere to align together with these star players, with the people that these leaders are very comfortable with. And we want to put together what I would almost call a hodgepodge of people inside the organization into these collaborative teams. Now, this is a hard job for leaders, and it's something that they're quite often very uncomfortable with. So we coach them through a methodology to understand how to bring all the people together, how to understand how that's going to work, and how to get the best out of people. Because the reality is, when you put together all these different divergent thinkers, we get the best results. It might seem a little challenging at first, and they will have to go through that sort of storming, norming, forming process. But once we get there, we get incredible innovations that we wouldn't have thought of before, because we have people that are genuinely questioning each other for the betterment of the organization, for the betterment of what's actually happening in that project, and how do they get excellent results? Because that's why they're there. They all want to deliver. They just all think differently.
Absolutely. And that's the role of a leader, is to bring those, like you said, those hodgepodge of collectives, bring the collective together and make it work, because there's great ideas in all of it, and just getting them to be on the same page. And that's what you do. That's what your company does. We have another question from our VIP sponsor of the show. She is in love with you, I think. How do you help a company that is going through a rebranding?
Ooh, so what we would do is we would probably think about, well, what actually sits inside where you're going. So we do a couple of things. And I'll just refer this back to some of the work we do for innovation. I'm definitely not a marketing specialist. So I just want to put that out there. Marketing is not my strong point. But we do have a number of methodologies that we have adapted to suit us, which is part of this customer journey modeling. So for innovation, we do two types of customer journey modeling: the external customer and the internal customer. I'll push the internal customer aside for a little bit because we're talking about rebranding. But we would actually look at what this customer journey modeling looks at to understand what that rebranding looks like and how it works. And for innovation, we look through the different ideas and the concepts. And we work through a lot of cognitive bias processes when we go through this customer journey mapping. Because I'm a big believer in, there's an author, Daniel Kahneman, and he talks about, in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, which is actually one of my favorite books of all time from a business perspective. And he talks about system 1 and system 2 thinking. And we have a methodology that we employ for this to help people understand what are they actually doing. And this is where we talk to the customers as part of this journey mapping, and they say, I do X, Y, Z, and I buy these things for this reason, or I use this service and this is how I do it. And we take on all that information from both a qualitative and a quantitative perspective. So we'll do both types of surveying. And then we take it a step further and we look at the system 2 process, which is, so what do you do when we're not watching you? How do you look at it when you're in situ and you aren't answering a survey? Because there's that cognitive bias. Humans want to tell us what they think we want to hear. They want to feel good about their answers, and in many instances they want to be right. So from a branding perspective, I would do the same thing. It's something that I did with my brand when we actually branded at GOYA. And I spoke to a number of different people. I got a number of different results, and I looked at the colors and did all those things. And I worked out what people were saying to me because they wanted to tell me what I probably wanted to hear. And then what they were doing when they didn't know I wasn't watching. And we can focus on that. And I do that with a brand as well. Why would it be any different? If you want someone to really love and feel and understand the values of your brand, what do they do when you can't watch them?
Somewhere in the middle is the truth, right? In between,
Yeah.
in between when you're watching and when you're not watching, you're gonna come to the conclusion of the truth.
So Eric, I'm sorry, that might have been a bit of a roundabout methodology because I'm definitely not a branding specialist, and marketing is definitely not my forte. But I think there's a lot of things that would apply to that, so that we understand that cognitive bias and how to remove that from our thinking.
Absolutely. Thank you for touching on that. Thank you. If nothing else, I needed to hear that. I needed to know that, and so thank you for that. There are some scary points in innovation. Some leaders steer away from innovation, right? We want to do the same old business as usual. We don't want to change a thing. Why, if it's not that's the common one. If it's not broken, why fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what are some of the demons that need to be addressed and need to be dealt with innovation?
Oh, that's a big, big demon, Marcus. And the reason why that sits there is because we have to understand that, there's a fear factor that comes with innovation inside the corporate landscape. And that fear is failure. And when people fail, they are very concerned that, will it affect my future promotion? Will it affect my bonus structure for the year? Will it affect how my peers and colleagues look at me? Will it affect how I'm going to progress through my career journey if I can't make something work? So we really do have those issues as well. And then some of the demons that we have go all the way to the other side of that fence. So we have the two ends of the spectrum, which is, I'm not going to do anything because I'm scared, I'm fearful. And then the other people that we must disrupt or die. And they're a real challenge, and they're equally as dangerous. And the reason why I say they're equally as dangerous is I believe that people get they're distracted by disruption. And the reason that occurs is they're not focusing on the right thing when that happens. So I think we should be focused on avoiding disruption in a different way. And that's where innovation comes in. And what I ask them to do is debunk that myth and that demon that sits in their head. And I ask them to fall deeply in love with their customer. Find out everything about them. Find out what they want to do, where they want to go, what they want to buy, how they want to behave. Everything about your customer. Make them your best friend and your deepest love. So that if you are providing what they need for now and into the future, you are unlikely to be disrupted for two reasons. Because hopefully you're going to be on the journey with them to predict where they're going to go, and they're going to talk to you. But also when you have that great relationship with your customer and they love you and you love them, it's very hard to disrupt them because they're going to be quite loyal. And I'll just give you one third demon that I touched on a little earlier in the conversation that I try and debunk, is that there is a bit of a myth that moves around in many organizations that innovation is a top-down approach. So it comes from the board or it comes from the C-suite, the senior executive team. And the reality is, I think that we see more, greater, and deeper innovation as it comes from the bottom up of the organization. So we have to debunk that myths with the leaders that we work with and allow them to be open for the information that flows through. And we work with many organizations where we've seen some really interesting 7-figure ideas come through and hit the bottom line that have come from people that are maintenance workers, they are cleaners, they are people that work in admin. And the reason that happens is they're at the coalface of what's going on. They can see what's going wrong. They are the people that are doing a workaround every day. They are meeting their challenges. They're solving their own problems. Imagine what we could do if we could automate them, make them faster, do the different things. But they're the only people that know what would actually make a difference. So how do we draw that from the bottom up? And the other one is the people that talk to and face the customer every day. They're the people that know what would change and how it works. So whilst they may not be the people that build and therefore deliver the idea, we need to understand that they are probably the core group of people that have the ideas that we need to start developing out in that stage. So these are the demons that we fall into in innovation in the corporate world, and we've got to start debunking them. There's also a lot more in the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have one quick commercial break. It's our last commercial break. And we are going to dive into that book and where we can get our hands on it. You guys stay with us. Stay tuned. Miss Ally, y'all. We'll be right back.
Are you a local business looking to offer your customers easy access to cash without having to travel miles? We're here to help. At Norman Legacy Investments, we provide free ATMs with free installation that provide a suitable investment for your business. Even better, we offer you some profit sharing and handle everything from start to finish. Just reach out to us today to schedule a free consultation.
We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast show. And if you missed it, Miss Ally just broke down some of the demons of corporate innovation that is hush hush, right? We don't talk about them. They kind of throw them under the closet, never speak about them again, right? And then there are some leaders and some leaders and some people who think innovation comes from the top up, top down, when it actually some of the best ideas, some of the $7 million idea, $1 billion ideas is actually from the ground floor, and how her company shifts the mindset, and how her team and her come in and get that brand, get that company refocused on what truly matters. And you touched on it earlier. You said, be enthused. To avoid disruption, you have to almost fall in love with your customer. Amazon comes to mind when you say that to me. When I hear that, Amazon is very, very good about knowing their target audience, knowing their customer, and being infatuated. They're not worried about the competition. They're worried about the customer, the people they serve, and who they serve. That's what came to mind when you said that to me. So thank you.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's right.
Absolutely. So the book, your book is powerful. The cover. How did you come up with corporate innovation? That's the title of the book.
This is the culmination of, and I call it the thought starter to a 9-step framework that we put inside organizations. And the reason why we call it innovation is because I do believe that we are all about unlocking the genius that sits inside organizations. And one of the reasons we need to do that is we need to create a more human-centric approach to innovation inside organizations to be able to unlock it. And hence that's why I've got the big padlock on there, because it's like, well, everything's there. We just need to unlock it, give the people the tools to be able to do what they need to do, empower them, and engage them to enact on innovation for 2 reasons. If we don't, what are they going to do? They're going to go somewhere else, or they're going to take their idea somewhere else, or the reality is, and it wasn't me that said it, but it's if we don't listen to our employees, we'll end up with an organization of people with nothing to say. And we've worked with lots of organizations that have been hit quite hard by that. So, there's one particular infrastructure organization that we did a series of work with where they had a really interesting team of people that worked in compliance. And for a lot of people, compliance can kind of be seen as a bit boring, it's a bit stale, there's not a lot going on there. But I'm a huge believer that a boring problem never begets a boring solution. It's probably going to be the most exciting. And they actually structured up this really amazing, innovative software as a service, cloud-based platform to work out how to assess their compliance and safety modules, which is something that they needed to do every day. Now, for years and years and years, they couldn't get any budget from their employer. Their leadership teams just said, look, it's not the right time. We get what you're doing, but we just don't have the budget for it. I don't think it stacks up. All those general conversations that you would all hear from time to time. And then they left. They said, we've got one shot at this and we're going to do it. And so they left as a team. They left and they pooled their money and they hired a set of coders who they hired the best that they could afford, which turned out to be amazing. And then they built this cloud-based SaaS platform based on all the industry knowledge that they had, all the years of experience, just the lessons that they'd learned over so many years of working in the field. And they put everything together. They understood themselves as the customer internally, plus the external customer. So they had a great model. Now they are the gold standard worldwide for this compliance platform. They sell it back as a subscription software piece to the employer that they no longer work for. So, and it was at that moment that employer came and spoke to our team and said, yeah, I think we need an innovation structure. And that was a legendary story that they shared with us and they share with the people in their organization. And it really changed the way that they view things. So I always talk to people about that because compliance sounds boring. No one could, get their head around it. It sounded really like, oh, this is not a driverless car. This is not, this is not the next Uber, or all the things that people believe they want to aspire to. But for them, it was everything. For them, it made their job better. For them, it was their dream, and they went and lived it elsewhere. But they could have lived it inside the organization if the organization was smart.
If they were smart, you're right. What is one indicator? What is one thing we should look for that is a key metric that you coach to and you speak to know? Okay, hey guys, if there is any, if there's an event or something that tells you, hey guys, it's time to innovate. Now's the time. What's the one thing that a company should look for when it's time to innovate? Is it a decrease in sales? Is it, our demographic is changing? We're now moving from Generation X to millennials, or what's a sign to say, hey guys, we need to do something different. We need to do it now.
There's a lot of different things, and I think we work off a matrix, so that we do a big health check and we assess the company on a matrix. So it's a big set of numbers that we put together in that. But if I have to break it down and take out all the variables of different organizations, you would have to think about what's the flattening of growth. So what's the point where we're not actually, we might look like we're achieving some growth in sales, but the reality is that just the inflation rate or, the consumer price index. Are we just really kind of stagnating and using a flat model? The other one is, what am I seeing in the external market? Am I seeing a lot of new people rise up in this space? Because if I'm not getting a great amount of growth and I'm seeing a lot of other people pop into my space from a competitive perspective, what am I missing? What am I really missing? And then the third one is, what's the prospective size of the market that we're moving towards? And if we're not building towards that, and we don't have any plans for that, then we've really missed the mark on what we need to do and restructure our strategy for that. So and that's just top three. But as I said, it's a big matrix that we look at to do a health check for an organization. But they're probably things that would be something that we could use to frame the context of the conversation across any industry.
Absolutely. I thank you for that. I thank you for breaking that down and giving us just those top three. I know there's a matriarch, there's a whole theme to this, there's a whole engine to this. And so so don't take anything she said for gospel, y'all. If you guys are flatlining in your business, that does not mean you're failing. What it does mean is you need to reach out to her team and get the experts involved so they can work with you and figure out what are the other metrics that you're not looking at or you're missing the mark on. So
Yeah.
wanted to protect Miss Ally here.
Thank you.
Where can we get the book, Miss Ally? Where can we find this book?
So you can find the book online. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Book Depository, Booktopia. There's any of your good bookstores online are selling it, and I think it's in certain bricks and mortar stores, Barnes and Noble, stateside as well. So you can keep your eye out for that one.
Absolutely. Love it, love it, love it. If you had one more nugget in your tool belt, Miss Ally, what would you say to that young business owner, that young CEO that is out in the audience and their business, COVID was just terrible. They've survived, but they're struggling. What would you give to that young CEO, that young woman, or that young man out in the audience if you had one more nugget in your tool belt to give them as advice?
Oh, if they've survived COVID and they're still going, I'd tell them to go for it. So what they really need to do is make sure they are really thinking about their customer. So you put the effort into understanding what's happening with their customer, and that will help them drive their business. So we often have different customers. So are we a retail business, or are we providing professional services? We all have customers. What is it do they want? How are we adding value? And the thing that I make my team and myself live by is, how do we give first? So we need to make sure we give first so that people understand what we're doing. And I'd say that to those people, go and first. You don't have to give everything away, but you just have to give sometimes people just enough to help them start moving on their journey. And they'll come back to you and they'll say, so what do I do next? And now I want to work with you, because now I understand that you truly know what you're talking about. And I think that methodology works very well.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Miss Ally, you are phenomenal. I thank you. I thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us and give back in this way. This is considered giving for me. The beauty about this show is I get to watch the replay and take notes. Miss Ally, thank you. I want to say this to you publicly. How can we connect with you? How can my audience grow with you? And how can we learn more and stay connected with you? Because the train has left the station. This train has left the station, but it's still slow enough for us to get on board. How can we connect?
Absolutely. So firstly, thank you for having me on, Marcus. It's been a wonderful conversation that I've truly enjoyed. It's been great. You can connect with me on either LinkedIn. So I think you've got my LinkedIn profile there, absolutely, which is, Alison R. Muller. And also you can connect with me on allymuller.com. So ALLYMULLER.com. That's my personal website. Connect with me there. Send me an email. If you want some help, I'll send you some frameworks. I've got frameworks, templates, tools. As I said, let's give first and let's help people innovate.
Innovate, innovate, innovate. That is the theme, and I'm going to leave that up on the big screen. That is the theme today, y'all. Innovate. Do not get stagnated. Do not get caught in the trap of, the old business model. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Innovate, y'all. It's time for a change. And Miss Ally and her team is leading the charge, and they're here to help you. Help us, help me, help we get to a better point in business. I hope this message has served you. I hope this is helpful. And I hope, Miss Ally, thank you again for coming on the Gentleman Style Podcast show. Like I end every show, take care of your family, take care of your friends, and always, always take care of business. This is Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast show, and Miss Ally Muller of GOYA, helping you take your business to the next level through innovation. Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you. See you.